All right, module two. Module two is all about querying a database, and I'm going to go through the textbook, but I'm also going to show you stuff as I go because this gets into why you're using Access and why you're not just basically trying to do all this stuff manually in Excel. All right, so we've already talked about basically what a query is. Now, in order to get going, there's a whole bunch of tables here, and I will be supplying the starter table, the starter database, I should say. The starter database is back in my downloads, and it's this dude there. Okay, so that'll be in the assignment as well. But notice it comes with several objects. It's got the buyer's objects, the mortgage companies, which is what they're showing in the textbook, and so on, right? So definitely take a moment when you can to explore like what the heck are all these about. And it already comes with some pre-existent queries. I suspect the properties query here is your basic, look at the properties table. The seller's query is your basic look at the seller's table, the seller's form, right? I mean, it's beautiful, great, whatever. And then closing report. I wonder if that's no, 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 that's not what I had to do before. So okay, good deal. So we got all this going on. Great. Um, Yeah, great, wonderful. Okay, so that's basically that's our starting place as we're going to start to build our own queries. And um, this will be interesting, honestly, because we're just pulling queries from one or more tables. That's one of the big deals that's about to happen. And we're also going to try to use criteria to specify. Because so far we've just been basically saying, hey, give us all the properties. Like if you look at properties here, there's 3 rows. You look at the property queries, 3 rows. But what if you only wanted one of those specific rows? And also, by the way, what if you wanted the user to choose it at the moment that they actually ran it? And that's kind of what we're going to be doing here. So we're going to, first of all, we're going to do everything diligent here. We're going to basically save it as, and they want us to basically save this as that name of the database. Always a good deal. Again, we sort of talked about this about backing up. So we're going to go save as, and I'm saving it right there as partners. Done. So now my database is saved. It's awesome. Okay, so now what are we doing here? So click on the empty cell below that to enter a new seller. So I guess we're going to sellers, and I'm clicking on this empty thing, and now they want me to basically put in S004. Okay, and if this becomes arduous, then yeah, looks to me like we're going to be doing all that. So that's awesome. Let's just make this big, so we can see what's going on. Yeah, you're really taxing me at this point. Okay, I'm gonna pause and fill in all that stuff. All right, so I did all the data entry. I could talk more about my feelings at this point, but I'm not going to. It was a lot of fun. I did all that typing. Now, what I think is about to happen here, in all honesty, I think let's get rid of you. I thought I caught this, but I think enter the remaining properties, resize whatever, save and close the properties table. So what the heck? What do you mean the properties? What are you talking about? Enter the data for the remaining properties as shown in the figure. So please tell me that it's right. This is sellers. Oh, I was in the wrong table. Okay, well, it's okay. It's okay, Grant. It's okay. No, you were right. That's right. Okay. All's right with the world. All right. So I did have the sellers, and I believe that is quite correct. Yes, that's what I did. I did that. So now what they're going to want me to do is do the same thing with property, same thing with navigation. So again, I'm going to basically pause the video and basically get my data caught up to this. I don't think there's an easier option than what I'm doing, by the way. So you may have to basically do the same thing yourself. Remember, when you're doing this, you get to click. I'll just maximize for a second. You get to basically click on the image, but also recognize the fact that when you click on the image, and of course, I was experiencing almost dial-up speeds, but when the image eventually loads, like it just did, it is sadly a bit like it's an image. It's not text, so you can't just copy and paste it. You basically have to retype the whole thing, which is just horrible. I mean, they could have just simply put it here in data form and just let us done it, but they didn't. All right, so we could cry about it, or we can just basically muscle through it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and I'm going to do I've done the sellers. I'm going to do figures 2-2, which is the properties, and figure 2-C. None of this is to do with queries. We're just trying to set ourselves up for the actual class. All right, so that was fun. But there's a couple. This is where it's probably a good deal that we're not sitting in class together. I mean, it didn't take me that long, but that would have been a kind of a boring little session for the students. All right, so sellers, I already basically, I think I started with that, right? So I basically went ahead and typed all that in. Notice the key is again S006. This is the thing that uniquely identifies Robert. Then the next thing I had to do is go to the buyers. Now this is important. Or not buyers, the properties. I did have to go to buyers, but that's coming up. Properties is right here. Now watch what happens with properties. This is important. First of all, the textbook image is actually different. The standard is different than what was actually in the data. Now, I was wondering if I should do anything about that, but because I'm not really sure what's going on down here with these guys, it's probably not a big deal because sellers is probably just pointing to sellers and closings is probably just pointing to closings. It's probably pretty simple. But as we move forward in this, I don't know. It shouldn't matter, but you're going to see why when I look over to the sellers. These text fields, the contents have to match exactly what is in the sellers, right? Because what it's saying here is that this property the seller is 6006 and 6006 is Roberto. If later on we start finding properties that are referencing what they're saying here in P001, I think it could matter, right? Because I didn't see anything here, like when I looked at buyers, for example, buyers is just the B's, closings seems to be referencing only the B. All right there, PID. Nope, it references it. All right, so you know what then? For properties, then we're going to be diligent little database people, and we're going to basically make sure that the keys match up. Now, what this is saying to me, and it should be saying to you, is that's pretty darn dangerous. I wish there was something in Access that would stop that from happening. That would actually make it impossible for you to do some bonehead move like that, right? I wish it was actually impossible to do. And you know what? The thing is, there is something, and I think it's coming up later, but I'll make sure we don't leave the topic of Access entirely before we do, because at some point you can link objects together, and then if you link objects together, where what was it? Closings? It was closing? Yeah. Where closings knows that it's linked to properties and closing knows that it's linked to whoever that is. I guess that's mortgage companies. And then you go ahead and you start monkeying around in mortgage companies and you start changing the keys around. The system itself will lock it up and say, no, 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 no. You can't just screw around with the key. So right now it looks like it's sort of the Wild West in this database, but I want you to understand that it doesn't have to be that way, that you can actually lock it down pretty good. But we're not doing that yet. I've closed all the tables now, and let's move. Oh, geez. I've done the whole thing without showing you the database, right? Is that the deal? Done the whole thing without showing you the database. Okay, well, again, just a quick explanation. All I was trying to say is that with properties, the keys are that came in the database are actually P1, P2, P3, and I had to basically change these numbers because I needed it to match the closing IDs, right? I will likely drag you guys through a theory exercise here, right? At some point, probably not this one, but understand that properties, the unique identifier, the primary key, whatever is pointing to it, these values have to match the values here. Just to ruin your lives, this is the primary key. And in closings, this is the foreign key. The definition of a foreign key is if the value exists, it points to the primary key of another table. And what should be happening here, if this was a lockdown database, is if we basically tried to enter this in as P001, and originally in properties, it was P1, it basically should, and there was no such thing as P001. It should have basically blocked it right then and said, no, 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 you can't do that. You can't do that. And then you have to basically figure out why. So, so anyway, we'll talk about that. I'm hoping in a more theoretical level, but I just want you to understand this is different than than what the textbook had. The textbook basically had originally it was in the database that I'm giving you is I might even just change it in the database thinking about it. Why don't I just change it in the database so you don't have to worry about it? But the one that came from the textbook actually had P1, P2, P3. Okay, enough of that. That's exciting. This is all just the setup so we can finally create a query, but this time we're not going to use the wizard. We're going to use the design view. So let's just shut these guys down and let's go ahead and go create query, but this time we're going to use the design view. Now, what I want to do with this is there, okay, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. We got enough space. So what you're going to see here, this query really isn't all that exciting. It's got no objects in it. These queries were done with the wizard, I suspect, and these guys are pointing right to their objects. This query's got nothing in it. It's basically saying, who would you like to run your query off of? And so let's go ahead and we want to select the closings table. So do a closings table. And I think I can just click, and there it is. There's our closings table. Beautiful. Says click add. I basically just double clicked on it. That got it. If you got the wrong table, by the way, you can just simply delete. Like for example, here's sellers. I can just delete it and it's gone. Right, dead easy. Now inside closings, this isn't all the columns, so you can feel free to make it bigger if you need to, so you can actually see what you need to pick. And then Okay, well, that was it. Okay, well, that was it for this page. We're basically right now, it's not a very exciting query because although we have the table, we haven't selected any fields or columns yet. So let's go ahead and do that. So adding fields to the design grid. So we're going to double click on closing ID. Watch what happens down here. Closing ID shows up. Double click on the closing date field. Good deal. It shows up. Right. So right now, if we ran the query, we'd see these two fields. Why, by the way? Because by default, they are set to show. All right, closing the add payoff amount. I'm double clicking this whole time. Add payoff mortgage company ID, new loan amount. We're going to stop being able to see it now, but we can just imagine the enjoyment here. We're going to purchase mortgage ID and then buyer ID. All right. And of course, look at this. It's not, I don't know what's happening, whether it's like I'm on dial up right now, but I'm pretty confident that is basically what we were going to see up on that picture. What if you want to include all fields, by the way? Do you have to add each? Oh, man, that's a good question. I think. Well, by the way, one other thing we could have been doing, I believe, is no, you can't. Yeah, you can do this kind of thing too, where you multi-select. Uh, well, what is the answer then? No, you can double click on the asterisk. Asterisk. Okay, so I'm going to explain that later. That's actually a really important idea. That idea actually shows up in SQL too. All right, so now we go next, determining criteria. Okay, so I tell you what, at this point in time, let me show you something behind the scenes. Okay, so let me show you something behind the scenes. So here's the query. It's the closings, whatever. I could run this right now by clicking on the run button. And what you're going to see is this. This is a query. It is based on closings. I suspect it's going to look a lot like this guy, and that is 4 rows, but it's only certain columns, right? So we go back to query. Notice query doesn't show up here yet because we haven't saved it, right? So this, if I want to, on this query, I can go view and look at the design view, and that's our way back. All right. But again, there are three different ways to look at this thing. Look at the SQL view for a second. The SQL view basically is select from. Select is basically showing the columns that you're interested in. From is where it's actually coming from. You will get way better in life if when you're doing access stuff, whether in this class or just for real life, that you pay attention to all three of these views. Don't just keep going to the data sheet view. There's a lot of intelligence happening in here. All right, so with that said, determining criteria. So right now, there are 4 closings, and if I ran this query, that there are actually 4 rows, right? And where's my run button? Oh, help me with all query design right there. run button. All right. So cool. So what if we only wanted a particular closing or a date or something like that? Let's have a look to see what we're going to restrict on. You go next, running the query. Oh, what that's it. Determining criteria. Okay, I'm sure I know we're going to actually see an example of that. So let's just move on. I just showed you how to run the query. Good. And now using a text data for criteria. So when we look at the, so this is closing. So click the criteria row for portage, whatever, this guy right there. Okay. Purchasing mortgage company ID. So the purchasing, again, look at what's happening. So this guy here, these are the values in payoff mid or whatever it is. I'm now trying to remember which one it was. Which one was it? So we got closing ID, that closing date, and pay off mortgage, whatever. All right, which is this guy here. So now when I go and I look at it, these are the values. Okay, so what if we only wanted to see M002? Here's where this really gets cool. You go to your design view, and in the criteria section, you can type in or paste, in this case, this guy. Now, when I pasted it, notice you get little singles or doubles. They are doubles, I think. Different databases have a different standard for that. But either way, this is looking for a text string. You'll learn a lot more about those in your programming classes. But at this point, just understand it's looking for M-002. When I run it again, now I only get M-002 right there. Yeah, payoff mid, M-002. Boy, that messed me up there. All right, so that's sort of an example of the text there. No, I didn't pick the right one. That's why. That's what's going on. You wanted me to pick it on mortgage, whatever, change. Okay, well, this is a good example now of let's go back and put it in the right column. So I'm going to take it out of there, and we're going to put it over here. Is this where it's supposed to go? That's where it's supposed to go. Okay, good deal. Because now they're all, this is the column that we're selecting on, not this column. Purchase mid, not payoff mid. All right, wonderful. So now if I want to, I'm going to save it, and I guess I'll save it as this really gross name, but again, make sure your queries are for real life named after like a way that you'll be able to identify it. So there's that query right there. Can you also save from design view? Of course you can. You can, right? Yes, of course you can. All right, so cool. All right, and then we can close it out. Awesome. Using save query. So now imagine we've shut this down. We bring it back up again. We can double click on this query, and it runs as great. All right, so next. All right, so let's imagine now that we don't have an exact match we're looking for. We're looking for, it says wildcards, but I'm going to basically suggest to you these are patterns. We're looking for patterns. We're looking for patterns in our data. So they show actually two wildcards for patterns. The asterisk means give me everything that starts with capital S. So the literal, if you want, like when we did this query here, that is a literal. All right. The literal S, so it's going to start with a capital S, but then it can be anything after that. Do they give you an example? Okay, I don't know. And then T with the question mark, that means it's got to be one and only one character. So, for example, this would catch super, it would catch soup, it would catch superlative, which is, I guess, what they're saying here. But the T underscore and then an M, this basically means it's going to start with a T. It's got to end with a lowercase m. Case is important, by the way. So start with a capital T, end with a lowercase m, but it can have any one character in the middle. So I suspect that they went with Tim or Tom, right? Tim or Tom. So what we're going to do here is go and look at the property state field. So we're still in properties. No, now we're in properties. We're going to do the properties query. Okay, so what they want us to do is they want us to go to the navigation pane and go to the properties query. So this query is fine. We can keep them alive or just shut them down. Go to properties query. This is the data sheet view. We want to go to the design view. We go to the design view, and now, and I don't think we're going to do anything with these tables, so let's just get rid of that. All right, so what we want to do is say in the property state, we want it to be, and they want P asterisk. Now let's just look to see what is this. So P asterisk in state would basically show us all these PAs. Okay, so that's what it's going to do. So let's go in state, capital P asterisk, and we hit enter just because it's fun. It added a like there, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So we didn't see a like in the other one because it was exactly that, right? This guy over here was exact. It wasn't a like. It was a saying, I want it to be that string. This guy is basically saying, I'd like it to be like P and then anything afterwards. Case is important, capital P. So if I go, I get this, right? Those are the four, and that's probably the actual answer. If I go over to design view for a minute, I want to show you a couple things. So I basically make this lowercase p, and I run it, it's going to be, oh, you're killing me. You're killing me, man. You're killing me. I bet you there's something behind the scenes that's making it easier. Probably like saying case insensitive or something. Either way, I gotta tell you, in proper databases, don't do that. You have to be very sensitive to the case. I also wonder if I'm being nailed with caching. All right. Okay, so what are we doing here? Click on File, ribbon, open the backstage view, save as, display, save as, save object as. Boy, it'd be really nice if you gave me that image because I can actually see what you're trying to say here. What are you doing? Okay, maybe over here. Okay, that's a good point. Sure. So this query, the properties query, save as, save object. That's what they're trying to say here. You can basically save the query, maybe give it to your friend, something like that, right? So that's kind of what's going on there. Okay, so you can save databases, you can save the object. That would, I believe, work with forms and reports as well. Okay, so now let's go back here, and it says to use criteria for field not included in the results. Sometimes you want to select on things that people can't actually see. So let's go to the seller's view, seller's query, I should say, and go to design. So again, by default, of course, everything is being seen, right? So which one are we about to do? We're about to do the phone number. So phone numbers, you could argue, are personally identifiable information, and we might not want to actually see that. So the first thing I want to show you is when I run this thing, the phone numbers are showing because it says show. If I click off this and I go, we don't see the phone numbers. Note that the SQL statement seems to suggest it's not seeing the phone numbers either. So that's interesting, right? Okay, great. Let's do what they're talking about now. Let's actually show it, but put in our string here. We're going to basically put in 267. And if I just left it at that and hit enter, this is not going to return anything, right? Nice when something works. But if I put an asterisk in there, this will show us all phone numbers that start with 267. We're going to go. These are the phone numbers that start. Now, and again, let's look at the SQL statement for a minute. Something new showed up, a where clause. So I didn't talk about this too much before, but this is a select clause, which shows what you want to see. From clause is where it's coming from. Where clause is a restriction or a filter. All right. So if I go back to this design view now and I say, hey, please don't show me the phone number, and I go, it's not showing me the phone number, but also in the background, you'll notice the select clause is not showing us the phone because, again, we don't want to see the phone. It also got shunted over to the right-hand side, which may or may not be a good thing. All right, so we did that. That's great. Looking at the results, that's great. Save as, and again, I could save the thing. Great. Oh, is that what I was supposed to do? I'm sorry. Have I not been doing that for you then? So save object. Oh, as a new object. Oh, of course. Oh, man. Oh, whatever. I get it. Yeah, of course. All right. You know what? Let me save my shame for a minute. So what happened here is that, of course, I don't want to leave the seller query with this like this, right? So so now I basically save this query. This query will be looking exactly the same. And I suppose what I would probably do now is go back to the sellers and no sellers properties. Oh, I yeah, that's right. Sellers has been unchanged. This guy has been changed because, of course, I put that little filter in there. So what I want to do now is what I should have done if I was paying attention to what the book was saying is I could have saved it. I'm going to save this as I'm going to save it as number two. Okay, so that's number two. And in my properties query, I'm going to basically take off my filter, and now this guy should be the same. Okay, good deal. Right? Properties queries everybody. M2 is everybody. M2 is everybody. Why is M2 everybody? M2 should be everybody. It should be that yeah, I know. I am talking. I am talking here. It should be this. It should be the filter that was here, wasn't it? Oh no, wildcard. That's right. That was a literal. So we got to go back. Got to go back. Got to go back. And I got to find what the literal was. That was the literal right there, which again, Grant put it in the right column this time. It is not in. Okay, so that's cool. Well, I've messed up the thing. Oh, yeah, I've messed it up. I don't know. You know what? Hopefully, if you're doing this, you can go back and figure out what. Yeah, when was it appropriate for me to actually save as a different query? What I would be doing in real life here for this, before I hit the parameters, what I would be doing is if I'm about to change a query, if I want to change it, great. But if I don't want to change it, like if I want to basically back it up, that's about the time I would sort of grab it. I'd go file, save as object, and then call it like I'd save it first and then make the changes. Because what I'm having trouble with now is I'm trying to remember what I actually changed. Okay, so this is a use criteria for field not including the results. We just did that. So now we move on to the next, a parameter. So in each of these cases here, if we look at the filter, like I got to put that in, I coded it in right at that moment. What we want to do now is sort of set up a query that when it's run, the person will be able to basically make the change right then. So we're going to create and view a parameterized query, and we're starting with a property design view. So we're starting. Open the properties query in design view. So here's where I'm probably going to get bitten in the bum here, but I'm going to close all my queries out, and I'm going to, sure, I love it. Now I'm going to go to the properties, and I'm going to go into design view. Cool. Okay, yeah, this looks reasonable, right? Yeah, that matches. So now it says, click the criteria cell for property state and enter two-letter code. Okay, so before I do that, are you going to want me to save it? What are you going to want me to do? Because come on, right there. You want me to save it? All right. So let's do this first. Let's do this like actual developers here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this query. We're going to go file, save as, save object as, go, and I'm going to call it that right now so that I don't worry about, you know, mucking things up. All right, so they're basically saying click on the criteria for property state and say enter two-letter code for state. Before we do that, let's just try this out. So here's state. If I go criteria and I go PA and I hit enter, it not partition. Thank you very much. That was awesome, but I do want PA. Okay, I just want PA. I don't want you to do anything now. Can you do that, please? Perfect. So I go run, and there's my PAs. Great. So we've already seen that. We know how that works. If I go PA asterisk or P asterisk, that's the wild card thing. Go P asterisk, I hit enter. We're going to get everything that starts with P, which is pretty well the same thing because it's a very small data set. But now I don't want that. I would like this to be a parameter. Now they're going right at it by basically saying, hey, put this thing in. They've even put colors in for us. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to basically go state question mark just to show you what that's doing. So when I go run, I'm now getting a pop-up state, and then I can go PA, and it'll show me that. If I go back to the design view and I go run again, state, I'm going to go New York in capitals, and it'll show me that. If I go again and I run it again, but this time I put in Minnesota, I get nothing. All right. So that's what a parameter is. And the square brackets basically, what's between it is what we would call a prompt. Now I could just be like that and have a question mark. And now, of course, enter parameter value. You do have some influence later, by the way, to start changing some of these, but that doesn't mean anything to anybody. No one knows what's going on there. And God help you if you basically do something dumb like that. If you do something dumb like that, now we have no idea what's going on. So what they want you to do right away is put meaningful text into the parameter, a meaningful prompt. So now when I run it, enter two-letter code for state. And so that's how that's going to work. All right. So that's what that's about. Let's get rid of you. And that's sort of showing it, and that's showing it, and we've already saved it, so we're good. And now we're at the breakpoint. So this is going to be the end of this part of module 2, and then we will pick up with the second part.